Good morning. This is House Appropriations on January 28th, and it's 9 a.m. And we are beginning our testimony for the day with the Chair of House Healthcare. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. And this is Ranking Member, well, I'll let her introduce herself.
Didn't remember the title, so thank you. Anyhow, welcome, and we're asking you to kind of share your thoughts on the Budget Adjustment Act from your committee's perspective. And I think we all have that. Right?
Yes.
Do you need introductions?
Oh, well, Representative Alyssa Black, do I need introductions to everyone here?
Do
No, I think I'm good.
you want them?
I'm good.
Okay.
So our committee took testimony from Department of Mental Health, Department of Vermont Health Access, Agency of Human Services, and Vermont Department of Health. In particular, I just want to note that Vermont Department of Health, the Healthcare Committee doesn't really deal with substance use prevention. So there are areas in the budget which we really didn't take a particular position on from Vermont Department of Health perspective. Essentially, Healthcare Committee went through all the budget asks within the governor's proposal, and we found each and every one of them favorable. We did straw polls on every single line item, all 1100. And there were no requests for anything additional. So we did not add anything additional. The only
We're liking your committee a lot.
we're really compliant, I guess. So the only thing is that we did suggest some language. Originally, I believe in the governor's proposal, which you had heard from, was 4 million in a stabilization grant to, and I think the language was exactly sustainability grants to mental health and substance use residential treatment facilities. In the interim between your original introduction to BAA and when it then got to healthcare, that 4 million, it's our understanding, was taken out of perhaps AHS and put to DIVA. Oh, it was in DMH. Okay, so it was in DMH's budget request. It was moved to DIVA. And it was so that 4 million was moved to DIVA, and then it became 10 million from DIVA in just all in general provider stabilization grants. We wholeheartedly approve of $10 million. Frankly, I think our questions revolved around, do you need more? 10 million is more than sufficient. We have been taking testimony for the last 2 weeks, and there are areas within our healthcare system which we know are in crisis right now. But they assured us that they felt as though 10 million was enough. What we wanted to ensure, though, was that the original intent for that $4 million that they wanted to use for substance use and mental health treatment facilities, that they still prioritize and use it for that intended original request. We don't want everyone coming in, because there will be lots of places and lots of needs. We don't want other people coming in. I call them people, but we don't want other organizations who might need stabilization to come in and sweep up the whole $10 million and substance use treatment facilities be left behind, trying to, because we believe that they need stabilization as well.
Thank you. A couple of quick notes. First of all, very much liked your table of breaking down all the items and then checking off what you agree with. So that's very helpful to us as we're trying to bounce around with different sections of the BAA. I understand there's a little bit of question or perhaps nuances with the wording itself that you've proposed with other stakeholders. So I don't know how best to resolve that. I know we talked a little earlier when you came into the committee room, but I think everybody understands the purpose of the $10 million, but want to make sure it's appropriated correctly.
I would say that our language, because we wanted to ensure that it was our intent that the original reason for it not be used for that as well. And our language was taken directly from what the original language was in the governor's BAA. I've come to understand that possibly that there might be perhaps the original intention for it was that they only, I'm just throwing out a dollar figure. What if they only need 3 million?
Mm.
Can we use that other 1 million for something else? I am not really prepared to give a position. This is not anything that our committee has discussed. I just know that we were very clear that obviously it was in the BAA. There is a need, and we want to ensure that that need is being met. If the language is changed and it meets our intention that those folks not be left behind, then I think we would be amenable to changing the language. How that language would be changed, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, your area.
Well, it
overlap
we
between
kind
you
of
and
share
Dave.
it just because the original intention was to put it in, to both be, to serve for, mental health and substance use, providers. But the money actually goes to DIVA. So technically it's Dave's Representative Iacoboni. So, anyway, so it's not clear. I think it's a conversation.
And the two of you talk about that maybe offline and see if this language that they have proposed does the trick. Or
Yes.
I understand there was another suggestion from AHS.
Yes.
And also Human Services might have a different thing. So if the two of you could,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all understand what the intent is right now, and it's not that the dollars appear to be in question. It's just making sure we have the right 400. Yes.
So this would be an appropriation to an agency. And with the intent being that these are going to provide grants, that agency, so it's going to be pass through money, the money is for grants. It's passing through the agency of jurisdiction in this case, and being granted out to the other entities that will be applying for the grants.
Yes.
Simple as that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Representative Iacoboni.
Yes, I just wanted to ask our friends from JFO their opinion. These are all general funds, but isn't there a high probability that they'll be eligible to match federal funds? And if so, shouldn't, if not here, but somewhere in our budget spreadsheets indicate such? It should leverage federal dollars. These are all Medicaid providers. That's why it's in DIVA.
Is it general fund in BAA?
Yeah, it says just
So
general.
I would normally defer to AHS if they were in the room, but I would also say that if AHS felt they could get more credit or Medicaid for it, they would have proposed that. Nonetheless, I can reach out to them and ask, but I suspect the general fund delivered. Because they could not.
I'm not so sure, but if you would do that, that would be appreciated. And as to the language, if I may, and I know we should probably do this offline, but I thought language has said something to the effect of up to $4 million of this appropriation shall be used to assist substance abuse or mental health residential facility, the original language. That way, and the balance of the funding shall be used for other, I'm using AHS language now, human services and healthcare providers. That way, if the 4 million was not all spent on the residential sector, it could be used with the other funds to help other health and human services providers. And on the other hand, if it was spent up there, great, but it was the original intent. I think some language like that would go both ways towards settling. Chair Woods had an opinion, for instance, on this too. It would address her concern.
Representative Consent.
But the current language doesn't really represent what.
No, the current language, the current language says not less
No.
than 4 million. So my concern is if it was changed to up to 4 million, that would mean once 4 million, it would be cut off for any substance use
Anything beyond.
and residential treatment facility. So what if they needed 4.1 million
Yeah,
at least?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I do too now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this area? Okay,
Just it should be clear,
Yes.
and if there's some other use, say it doesn't get up to house and there's money still there, you know, what's an allowable use for that should be spelled out. If it, right now it's for pass through for grants. If it's not gonna go for grants to these specific purposes, then what are the other purposes that it would be intended to be used for?
Any healthcare provider, any human service provider, let's say, hypothetically, a clinic, maybe like a primary care clinic is, in danger of shutting down. They could apply for a grant to stabilize.
Doesn't this already do that though?
The language and what was proposed by DEVA does cover that. They wanted the additional 6 million, and they wanted it more generally open so that any provider type could apply for it, and they could use it, broadly to stabilize health or human service providers that are in danger of, that we would lose, which are catastrophic for communities.
Sometimes they don't know ahead of time.
Yes.
What those are, which is why I think the 4 million got changed to 10 million even after they did the initial draft of the EAA. But some issues came to light. Representative Blumer.
Actually, I'm deferring to, it was Representative Cynthia.
Need additional language to cover what you just described.
No, it's in our
Okay.
original language.
Yeah, I think, I believe that so much has been changing and there have been many suggestions, and I just think it makes sense for us to get together with AHS as well in the room so that they can the language that they would prefer, why, and we can disagree with it. It's just so that everybody hears the same thing, because most of the conversation has been among the two of us and AHS.
I think, Ranking Member Rebecca, I think one thing I would point out that we haven't focused on is this language specifically focuses on residential facilities. So this just isn't treatment facilities. It's not outpatient. It's specific to residential. So I think that's saying a lot about the availability of different levels of care in our system right now and the status of it.
And I believe that Chairwood has an opinion about that.
Yeah.
So that is why we should all get together.
Good, Representative.
Thank you for coming in this morning. I knew that all of these charts and whatnot, and what I'm missing on the chart that you provided is a budget line. So I'm kind of looking for the $35 million, and I just want to be sure, committee, Nolan, perhaps that this is the money that we talked about yesterday. That was money that was due to reclassification post-COVID. Is that right? I can't find it on the sheet. I just can't find that
Numbers.
caseload and utilization number on, because I don't know what line item it is.
That's, well, if you have, oh, I'm not sure what line item it is on the budget, maybe.
So on the chart that was provided by House Healthcare, there's on the left-hand column under DIVA, it says caseload and utilization, and it's 35.5 million to the general fund. I'm just curious, I can't find it on our other sheets of paper because it doesn't have a reference to a line item. Is it the same amount of money that we were talking about yesterday of the reclassification of the Medicaid post-COVID?
It's not the reclassification purely, it's, as I said yesterday, it's the redetermining of our estimates. So we build a 25 budget based on 24 data. And for VA, we've got 6 months worth of data, and we just go, oh, it's not going the way we thought it would. People are in different buckets, our utilization is up.
Right, so we had this conversation. I'm comfortable with the conversation. I just didn't know
Yes.
where this sat in reference to what we've already.
That would be under, in. So it would be a combination of 307, which grossed up at 78 million. At the GC share of that's 36. And that, you find that in Stephanie's narrative. You think about 32, 33 million, 35 on the thing. Oh, yeah, 35, right. So we go to Stephanie's narrative, that we give it, looks like this. Case 2, like a case level. Part that has the great value. Growth and page.
Thank you.
Sorry, here's no.
I just wanted the reference point because we talked about this at length yesterday. I'm clear on what we talked about. I just didn't know if it was a different number.
I have a question on another area. Did your committee look at the 18.5 million BAA for health insurance? And maybe that's not your area, I'm not sure. But if the human services will be accepting.
I'm not
Okay. Yes.
18, I'm not sure that's health insurance or,
Transfer. There's, and I apologize if this wouldn't be your jurisdiction.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I think it was suggested that maybe GovOps look at that.
Okay.
I mean, conversation.
for state employees. Yeah, no, we would not look
I
at
feel
that.
like coming up higher cost. Sorry, I think health insurance and
Yeah,
maybe, yes, I remember now that conversation, so. Up there. Committee, any other questions for our House Healthcare Committee? Thank you very much for coming in. And again, your review of all the different budget areas in the BAA. So committee, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break to stretch your legs, and then we're going to transition back to going through the markup and maybe just help us check off a few more boxes. So thank you.
thanks for having us.